that your spiritual identity decided to trick you a long time ago, just for fun. Your spiritual identity that is unrestricted, unlimited, all-powerful, decided to see what would happen if I could trick myself into thinking I was limited, restricted, powerless, a victim. What would happen? Wouldn't that be fun? It's like making a really good movie. And you have to have everything exactly right or you'll catch on. So it has to look real. So he talks about phase 1 of tricking ourselves and phase 2 when our inner self finally says, time to wake up and remember who you are. We are always that divine self. There is always that higher self, God self, expanded self, whatever name you want to give it, within us and around us, guiding us, pushing us. It's not separate from us, it is us. But we pretend that we're only human, trying to get to be spiritual. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who is one of my favorites, she was called the Teacher of Teachers. She was the teacher for Ernest Holmes, our founder of religious science. And I'm taking the class with Reverend Dr. Cynthia right now on Emma Curtis Hopkins. She was a mystic. I'm guided to say she still is. By means of each of us. She claims and knows that there is no absence of good. No absence of good. So whenever we see something that we label less than good, we're tricking ourselves once again. And that when we call on the truth, when we claim this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me, it doesn't make good show up. It opens our eyes to see the good that has already been here, all along, all the time. Quantum physics is supporting this. As you get into this science of quantum physics, you'll see that they're saying that consciousness is all there is. It is that which causes movement and causes form. And we are all one in consciousness. Each of us is a divine center of consciousness, individualized. I would ask you, what shows up in your life? What is your experience when you allow yourself to move into that God place, whatever you call it? And you might not even call it that. It might be when you're at peace out in nature or listening to music. What is that like? Is there a sense of peace and love and freedom or just stillness? That is the truth of you. And that is what creates. That is what has the most power. When we acknowledge it, when we recognize it, and when we let it. The word is let it show up in our worlds. Years ago, when I was first introduced to religious science by Reverend Helen Paredes, Helen Street, she would often say, I only have one message. And every Sunday I have to doctor it up some different way so it sounds different to the congregation. And her message is, God is love. And every one of her talks had that as her center, the focus. And I've been looking at the talks I've been giving, and it seems that my focus is the same. I feel like Janie One Note. And I have to, okay, how are we going to talk about it this time? What are we going to pull in to have it be a little different so people don't fall asleep totally? And mine is always, and it's my message for me, but I share it with you. Remember who I am. Remember who you are, the truth, that which is behind the mask, that which is behind the costume. So when somebody shows up in front of me for a treatment, I have to remember, as Reverend Helen did, that sometimes they come to me with a really good disguise. Wow! That disguise is full of seeming angst and terrible stuff. I'm to remember who is behind that, who the truth is. And when I look in the mirror, who's really there? Not the human face, but the light behind it. So that's what keeps coming for me all the time as my theme. And I guess it'll be my theme till I really get it 100%. Then I may talk about it more. Ernest Holmes, our founder of religious science, states in the Science of Mind text on page 132 that man, human, is an identity in the universe, in the one mind of God, and thus is a center of God consciousness. But when, he says, we are ignorant of that, we just don't know, we haven't discovered it or remembered it, we misuse our power. And by misusing it, we often bring misfortune into our own lives. It's not that the power isn't there, it's that we're ignorant that we're powerful. We're ignorant that we have that power and we can use it. We are beyond anything that we can imagine as humans. So I have some words about power that I do want to share with you. And it was so funny. I was going to talk about this, and then I did the reading for my class, and it was Emma talking about power. Oh my. A coincidence, or as my friend calls, a coinky-dink. I used to be afraid of the term power. As a young adult, I looked on the word power as something very negative. I thought of it as power over someone, when someone that seemed to have more power than I did would try to force me or others to do things they didn't want to do.